In this session, we will see some operation on the join operator. Some simple examples on equi-join, left join and right join. Here we have two relations, T1 and T2. The arity of T1 is 3 and the arity of T2 is also 3. The attributes are P, Q and R. The attributes of T2 are A, B and C. The domain of P is integer and the domain of A is integer. The domain of Q is character. The domain of B in T2 is character. The domain of R in T1 is integer and the domain of C in T2 is integer. We will see some simple operations on these two relations. The first operation will be on a normal equi-join, again on an equi-join but on different attributes, then on left join, right join, a little bit more complex join operation, and then finally a union operation on both the relations. The first operation. Now the first operation in this case is T1 equi-join T2. Now what are the join attributes? From T1 it is attribute P and from T2 it is attribute A. Now when we perform a join operation based on these two attributes, what would be the output? So basically we are trying to join tuples from T1 and tuples from T2 based upon the attribute P from T1 and A from T2. We consider the first tuple 10 and the first tuple of T2. Okay, so there is a match over here. Since there is a match, we can have a join. So the first tuple, in the output we will have a join with the first tuple of T1 and the first tuple of T2. So it will be 10 A 5 and 10 B 6. Is there a match with this tuple with any other tuples of T2? Yes, there is a match over here, right? So it will be again 10 A 5 and 10 B 5. Next, we move on to the next tuple, that is 15. Is there a match with any of the tuples in T2? No. We move on to the third tuple, that is where the value of P is 25. Is there a match? Yes, there is a match over here. So in the final relation we will have 25 A 6 and 25 C 3. So when we have an equi-join, only those tuples which match will be shown in the output. We move on to the next problem. Okay, now over here I am considering the same relation through all the problems. So T1 T2 equi-join T1 dot Q from the relation T1 and the join attribute from T2 is T2 dot B. Now from relation T1 it is attribute Q and from relation T2 it is attribute B. So basically now the domain of Q and B, to have a join the domain must be the same, and in this case the domain is same, it is character. Okay, so now what will be the output? So we consider the first tuple from T1, that is 10A5, and try to find if there is a match anywhere in the second relation. So there is no match, so we skip that. We move on to the next tuple from T1 with respect to the join attribute B over here, and there is a matching table T2. So this matches with this tuple and also matches with this tuple. So our output would be 15 B 9, 10 B 6 and 15 B 9, 10b5. Okay, so when you use different join attributes, the result varies. We move on to the next problem. Now in this case we are considering a different type of join, that is the left join. How do you identify that it is a left join? A normal operator, a normal join operator with an extension on the left hand side. Now when it is a left hand join, we consider all the tuples on the left hand side of the table. So in this case, for simplicity, I will consider all the tuples as of now, that is 10a5, 15b9, 25a6. The join attribute is P and the join attribute over here is A. Now in this case, is there a match with this tuple with the second relation? Yes, there is a match with respect to this tuple. Right? So I will mention it over here, 10b6. Is there any other match with this tuple? Yes, there is one more match with the last tuple in relation T2. But I have not mentioned it over here, so I will mention it at the end over here. That is 10a5, 10b5. We move on to the next tuple in T1, that is 15b9. Okay, is there a match? There is no match. Now in this case, it will be shown as null. So there is no match. We move on to the next tuple, that is 25a6, and yes, there is a match here. So it would be 25c3. So basically in the left hand join, what happens is, in the left join, all the tuples from the left hand side are considered in your final output, and on the right hand side, if there is a match, those values will be shown, else the values will be filled up with null values. We move on to the next problem, that is T1 right join with T2. Now the notation that is used for right join is the normal join operation with an extension on the right hand side. Now the join attributes over here are Q and B. So the domain is same, it is character. So in this case, what we do is we consider all the tuples on the right hand side of the table. So it will be 10b6, 25c3, 10b5. Is there a match with this tuple? Is there a match with this tuple anywhere with the attribute B? Yes, this matches here, right? So we have 15b9. Okay. Is there a match anywhere else? No, there is no match. We move on to the second tuple. Is there a match? There is no match. So in this case, it will be null. We move on to the third tuple, 10b5. Is there a match anywhere in this table? Yes, there is a match here, right? So the output would be 15b9. So if you see, in the right join, all the tuples from the right hand side table are considered, and if there is a match or no match, if there is a match, it will be joined. If there is no match, those values will be filled with null values on the left hand side of the table. We move on to the next problem. That is again a simple join operation, but now there is some variation in this join operation. That is, there are two conditions that are specified over here using a AND operator. So basically this condition also should be satisfied. The condition 1 should be satisfied and the condition 2 also should be satisfied to join tuples from relation T1 and tuples from relation T2. Now the first join condition over here is T1 dot Q and T2 dot P. This and this from T2, and the second condition is T1 dot R and T2 dot C. So basically Q and B should match and R and C should match. Okay, so we consider the first operation. 10 So here we consider the first tuple. Okay, referring to the first domain value A. Is there a match with B? There is no match with B. So since the first condition fails, obviously there is no need to check for the second condition. We move to the second tuple with respect to the value B. Is there a match anywhere? Yes, there is a match here and there is a match here. Next thing, if the first condition is satisfied, we have to check for the second condition, that is with respect to R and C. Is there a match? 9, 6, 9, 5. No match. Okay, we move on to the third tuple. The value over here is A. So with respect to this, also there is no output, no match. So in this case, there won't be any output, since there is no match. So what we'll do is we'll do a small change to this particular query. Okay, we'll modify the query, change the join attributes to something else and see how the output varies. Now instead of saying T1 dot Q and T2 dot B, I'll change this condition to T1 dot P equals to T2 dot A. T2 dot A. Okay, I'll keep the second condition to be the same. So we are checking for P and A and we are checking for R and C. First condition, 10 and 10. Yes, it matches. Does the second value match? No. We have another, here there is no match, right? We go to the next value over here. 10 and 10 there is a match, 5 and 5 also there is a match. So as of now we get the value as 10A5 and 10B5. We consider the next tuple, 15, there is no match. The next tuple, 25, yes, there is a match here. The next value with respect to R and C, here it is 6, here it is 3. So now the moment I have changed my join attribute, I get a different output. Moving on to the union operation. So it should be, when you are performing an union operation, it should be type compatible. Now in this case it is type compatible because the number of attributes in relation T1 and the number of attributes in relation T2 are same and the domain is also the same. So basically when we have a join operation, none of the tuples in relation T1 is similar to the tuples in T2. So now in this case when you apply a join operation, the output would be 10A5, 15B9, 25A6, 10B6, 25C3 and 10B5. None of the tuples from T1 and T2 are the same. So when we have a union operation, this would be the output.